And I said, what's wrong? She said, your daddy's gone. I said, well, yeah, I seen him leave for work this morning. She said, no, he's gone.
Johnny found out that I had this meeting scheduled and was furious at me.
There are many reasons why Depp seems more reliable and therefore more likable than Heard. I'll look at two of the most important reasons. These reasons, I think, explain why most people like Johnny Depp and dislike Amber Heard. The first reason is consistency. When explaining his upbringing, Depp had the same message as he's had in the past. In the past, he said that she was maybe the meanest person he'd ever met in his life. Understand, Depp maintained this message, the only difference being the level of details. This suggests that he wasn't just fishing for sympathy when he took the stand, but that he explained what his upbringing was actually like. Of course, the reason for these descriptions is to create sympathy. That's part of every attorney's job. But the point is that Depp's narrative has remained consistent.
We heard a bit from your sister Christy last week, but can you please tell the jury in your own words about your childhood upbringing?
I had a very interesting childhood. One that I thought was normal until a certain age. But my mother was quite unpredictable. She was very unpredictable. She had the ability to be as cruel as anyone can be. In our house, we were never exposed to any type of safety or security. I could start to see when she was about to head into a situation where she was going to get riled up and somebody was going to get it. We were all somewhat shell-shocked, even if she just walked past us, you'd sort of shield yourself because you didn't know what was going to happen. There was quite a lot of name-calling and bullying, making fun of whatever defect, one might have. If my brother wore glasses, so of course he was four eyes, and his teeth were messed up in the front, so he was buck-toothed as well. We had to take it. I mean, you just had to take the pain.
When Heard explains her background, she does so in a lot more unsympathetic fashion. She sneaks in self-praise, and when her attorney makes her highlight some of her good deeds, she focuses on what these deeds did for her rather than what they did for the people she was helping.
I just always pushed myself to be able to accelerate the process. I wanted to, get out of school as fast as I could, and I wanted to do more things with my life than stay in Texas. As long as I maintained an A average, I enjoyed the benefit of a scholarship, and I did that until I realized that I could take my GED and SATs early, and I did that and placed out of school.
And what, if any, charitable work did you do when you were still young?
It started off as a requirement for the school I went to, and then I liked it so much, I think, because it meant I wasn't at home, and it was important to me is just to not spend time at home. And I really loved meeting people, so I worked at the soup kitchen every morning before school, during the school year. I worked at with deaf kids for a while, and I love it.
And when you worked with deaf kids, what, if anything, did you do to learn to be able to work with them?
I taught myself how to sign basic sign language, and then I pursued it. I audited a course at the community college, which I ended up going to get out of high school early. later on, but I would audit classes. I remarkably was able to audit, I think, the majority of 2 semesters. And
Also, many people would argue that this term,
deaf kids,
is inappropriate. Combined with her exaggerated facial expressions and dramatizations, Heard seems less relatable and thus less likable than Depp. The second reason is the narratives themselves. In statement analysis, there's the important concept narrative balance when determining whether or not a narrative is reliable. A narrative consists of a prologue, a critical event, and an aftermath. The prologue sets the scene for the critical event and should be short. The critical event is the most important part, since it details the main event. It should be long, and more importantly, specific and consistent. The aftermath briefly explains the outcome of the critical event. In the following, Depp's asked how his parents' relationship came to an end to his understanding. His narrative begins with briefly setting the stage, as the prologue should.
How did your parents' relationship ultimately come to an end to your understanding?
When my father left, I didn't realize that he had left. He left for, I was 15. I had already left school, and I was a musician. I was playing in clubs and such.
He then continues with a specific and detailed critical event.
And he left for work one morning, just like every day, and was packing his car, and then he left. And then hours later, my mom, Betty Sue, came home from work. It was about 3:30 in the afternoon. And she walked in the door and stopped and just looked around like she felt something. And I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "Your daddy's gone." I said, "Well, yeah, I seen him leave for work this morning." She said, No, he's gone. And she ran into their bedroom and into their closet, and I followed her, and she opened the door, and there was his rack of clothing and all his belongings were gone. And she was quite upset, and I took her car and drove to my father's work, and I sat down in front of him at 15, and I said, "Listen, seems as though somebody stole all your clothes out of the closet." And he said, yeah. He said, "I'm done. I can't do it anymore. I can't live it anymore. You're the man now."
And now the aftermath, Depp's reflections on his father's words and the outcome of the critical event.
And those words didn't quite sit well with me. I didn't feel like I was ready to hear those words. But that's what I got. Then my mom went into a very, very dark place, a very deep, dark depression, as you can imagine.
In conclusion, Depp's narrative has an expected structure linguistically. On the contrary, when Heard is asked to tell about Depp's alleged reaction to a meeting she had with a sci-fi writer, she fails to describe details. She starts with a prologue which spends a lot of time describing the dream project, the writers she was about to meet, how sick he was, and where they were and when. This long prologue postpones the critical event, buying her more time to contemplate her wording.
All right, so I'm going to take you up to December of 2014, and specifically December 17, 2014. And I'm going to ask you to take what, if anything, do you recall of an incident with Mr. Depp relating to Clive Barker?
he was the sci-fi writer that I liked. Well, fantasy sci-fi writer. I kind of had a dream project based on a book that I loved of this author. He's just a weirdo genius, artist, writer. And I had a meeting with him through another director about a piece of property he wanted to make into a movie. And I just remember I believe we were at the ECB. It was in December of 2014 when.
Now it's time for the critical event where we expect details, but there aren't any. Instead, she's more focused on describing the writer.
Johnny found out that I had this meeting scheduled and was furious at me. Accused me of having this plan to sleep with this. He was mad that I was taking the meeting at this man's house, but the man was very ill, like terminally ill, and not able to leave his bed or his home. He was under home care and very ill. And the person who was introducing us explained to me how we had to meet, and I did. And
Heard has a hard time describing Depp's reaction. She seems to be more comfortable talking about almost anything else. Next, she keeps skipping logical steps in the narrative, and she chooses generalizing and concluding language over specific language. This resembles aftermath descriptions and aftermath reflections, not a critical event.
that was a big problem for Johnny. At first, it was that he was concerned about my safety, and I thought that was sweet. And you know, there is something that I thought was sweet and romantic about that, but combined with the drinking, it was not very long before I was being accused of full on having this other plan to sleep with the writer in order to get this part that I was already being, you know, basically offered to develop. And it was just this, you know, he switched from he was accusing me of having this ulterior motive with this director, the director having it with me, then with this writer. And the important thing I can try to get across in this moment is that nothing I said, no amount of explaining, apologizing, accepting, not accepting, agreeing to not go, nothing worked. Nothing changed. How mad he was at me and constantly telling me I had done something wrong to deserve what was happening. Until, of course, he takes it too far, hits me too hard, breaks too many things in the house, and then leaves, which was the pattern. And he would leave and not have to deal with the cleanup.
Overall, Heard's narrative is unconvincing, and even if Depp was furious and had made this accusation, Heard's still not describing a crime. She's describing someone being angry, which isn't a crime yet. Have you found similar or other reasons? And what do you think about this trial? Thanks for watching.